What is good, my people? This is a weekly analysis video going over all the major pairs that I want to trade for the week, marking out levels and places I expect the market to come to. Let's get into it. So I usually start off on the DXY. It's more to give me a general reading of what the dollar is doing. So here we mark out the two major areas, and I start my analysis on the daily. I do daily first and then I drop down to 4H. 4H is my major structure time frame, so it's daily first and then drop down to 4H. So here we are seeing that dollar on the daily is stuck between these two ranges, but as you can see, for the past few weeks dollar had been bullish to this point, and then now we're seeing a pullback of that strength. So how is it reflected on the 4H? We can see that dollar made this highs and then came back to this size, and then now it is selling off again. So let's just mark out major areas on the 4H2 as we did on the daily. HTF. So this major areas on the 4H. Going into next week, what we should be looking for is a continuation of this sell-off of the dollar. So with that idea in mind, we now start translating that into pairs that have the dollar as their quote. Pairs that have the dollar as their quote. So the GBP USDs, the XAUUSDs, and the Euro USDs. GBP USD, as we can see, prices has on a daily also been stuck in these two ranges for an extended period. Let me get this. So I have different colors for different lines on different time frames. So like this blue one now is for dailies. I do it for clarity. You can decide to do it wherever you feel comfortable or wherever is more convenient for you, but this is your daily. So you can see it has been in this consolidation for an extended period, but on the 4H what we are seeing is price sold off, and then now we're seeing a rally back up on prices. So what we'll do is, as much as there is a range on the daily, we can see that there is room for us to be able to operate and potentially find setups. So mark out major area, major high here. This is a major low bar. It has been broken. This major higher low was broken, but instead of price to come back and then continue down, we were seeing that major high holding, major higher low holding. So price came back into it and then respected it, continuing a trend upwards. So going into next week, I would be looking for setups to bring us back to this 354 areas here. And what that would look like, I will mark out key demand areas that I am seeing within this cluster of price action. So demand area here, and then which other major one. So I usually mark out two major demand areas that I can identify on the chart. So as in this case, this one, and then another major one here. Here. So going into next week, if I am looking for mobile opportunities, I would be looking for markets to come back into this supply area here before continuing back to the 354s that we want price to go to. Then let's see how it is reflected on the 15 minutes. So yeah, I would be looking for price to come back into these areas here, and then right now I can't see any significant. Usually if I have an area where I want price to come back into on the 4H before I look for my buying opportunities, I will now, my 15 minutes is my entry. I will now come to the 15 and look for supply areas within that 4H demand area. So in this instance, it's the absolute bottom right here. And the reason why I'm picking here, it's usually you find that there are other supply areas maybe before this high is broken, but this is the last supply area before this high was broken, and there's a displacement too. So usually what I look for in marking our supply area is a high being broken and displacement of price, and then also candle formation. So base, drop, base, rally. So drop here, the base here, and then the rally here, and that rally broke this high here with this displacement. So if I'm to look for buy opportunities currently, it would be around here as at now, but then we could see price come back into these areas to a retest without coming deep here, maybe pull back, break a high, and then maybe create a supply area here, and then we would look to, in that instance, if something like that happens, look for supply areas that have been created after this area here has been touched. We could also see a break of this area here, and then somewhere like this now being the supply area that we use for our potential entries, but then as at right now we are only seeing it creating the candle formation. We haven't seen a high broken or a significant displacement for us to properly mark it out as a supply area, a demand area. But yeah, that's what we're looking for on GBP. So major high low here, and a major high here. So we are looking for continuations of this trend that has been established up to 3543, 35423. Guys, so as you can see, Euro USD is printing similar structures as GBP USD. They are correlated, so usually what you see on GBP USD ends up being reflected on Euro USD too, and vice versa. So mark out these areas here to properly mark out the ranges. As you can see on Euro USD2, we had this break of this low here, but then instead of price coming back and then continuing that bearishness, we are seeing price fail in its bearish nature and then coming back into these areas. So what we're looking for is a continuation of this bullishness, although I can already identify a supply area here on the daily for Euro USD. So we could see price do this, come back into this daily supply area here before continuing down, right? Before continuing down, or we would see price do this, come back into the supply area, pull back before continuing up after taking out the supply area. So how would it be reflected on our 4H? So on the 4H now you can see that the structures are slightly bullish. We've had this base here, a base, we've had this low here, we've had this accumulation, and then what is now looking like a distribution of that accumulation. So we've marked out this low, and then now we mark out this major lower high. We can mark out this major lower high here. So keeping in mind what we saw on the daily, the idea would be for price to either come here, pull back before breaking this supply area here, or price comes back and then find enough supply for it to continue down to, who knows, maybe eventually break 133s. But as for now, we haven't had proper confirmation. As for now, we are looking for price to come back to these areas so we can actually look for trade ideas that would be in line with this idea of price coming back to this area here. But I cannot see any significant demand areas I would want to take a trade off on the 4H. But let's check how the 15-minute structures are. So on the 15 minutes, we can clearly see this bullish trend here. So let's mark out previous major high that was broken, new major high. Let's turn this to this, and then major high low here. So the idea that we expect price to come back to these areas here. If it doesn't just shoot up to go into the area, we could look for trades in and around where we could look for trades in and around. Let's zoom this in. Okay, I think I would much rather be comfortable seeing price do this instead. Come back here before coming back down to this area here, and then continuing up, as opposed to, we had this supply area here, but then usually I'm not so comfortable trading this type of ones that I haven't seen break area or have significant displacement. So I'd much rather this supply area that has started being created. To break this high here, maybe touch the area that we anticipate price to go back into, come back down, retest the demand area, and then continue up. So it will look, let me mark this out as a demand, it will look something like this. If there was, say, okay, if we had like a demand area here that had not been touched, we could have looked for setups that were somewhere around here. And then this one here, this is a bit on the far side, but then we'll still mark it out, because if this doesn't happen, then this would be the next area we'll be looking for trades. This would be the next area we would be looking for trades. So anything that happens in between, if it's not here or here, anything that happens in between here ain't got nothing to do with us. So yeah, let's just check this again. This is my early assessment on Euro USD, and then now everyone's favorite pair, gold. Gold has been on this very even tighter than the one on Euro USD and GBP USD. It has been on this very tight consolidation. You're seeing price is tightly packed. Mark out this side here. Price is tightly packed, and we haven't had significant movement in weeks, and this could continue for a while. This will continue maybe for a period of time before we eventually see a break up or a breakdown. But as for now, if we were to, I would personally stay out here. I've been staying out of gold ideas because I need clarity as to what I'm doing, and I don't like markets like this that I am not sure of. As you can see on the 4H2, there isn't clarity, there isn't structures that are clean that you would want to trade. It's tradable, you can find setups, but the setups are not as high probability as setups you'd find on cleaner markets. But let's mark out major areas here, and I'm looking at it, I'm trying to find something to say about it. And well, again, if you want to force it, you can force it and maybe be like and maybe say, okay, price has come down to this demand area, we tested it and it's showing sign of respecting it, and so you might decide to find setups in line with that. Be like, it will look something like this. You'd be like, this one. To be honest, I am not comfortable trading gold this week. I wanted to do the, if you wanted to force it, maybe you could find trading opportunities, but even with me trying to force it, I can't see anything that I would want to trade on gold. So the analysis for gold, I would advise, but wait, I know, I would advise that we wait for price to take out 4194, 419, and then the 3970 area here before we start looking for ideas. But for now, the drama is too much, so I as well just sit gold out for now. Oh yeah, NQ, I don't even know how many of you people actually trade NQ, because usually I feel like it's this select group of, not select, there is this, it's few individuals who are trading NQ. But when I come to my timeline on Twitter, I end up seeing trade ideas on NQ, so it's not as niche as I usually perceive it to be. So NQ, we are seeing stocks have been ranging because of the fundamentals of the war in Iran, and then interest rates for the dollar. So we've seen this movement here, and then now we're seeing what looks like bearishness, or at least from last week we're seeing what looks like bearishness, although again immediately now we can see that bearishness is losing its steam, and this is also because of fundamentals. It's because of the Iran-US war and Fed rate. So as much as we had seen price come down to 2700, we are now seeing what looks like significant strength coming back into the bullishness of NQ. So what we're looking for, let's mark out this very significant supply area here on a daily. So that's right here, and how is it being reflected on the 4H? On the 4H, if we expect price to at least come back to this area here before continuing the bearishness, then we would be, first of all, let's mark out the major areas on the 4H. So we have this, the major low here, and then this lower high, this major lower high that created the major low here, and then this broken area, the previous low that was broken. Let's mark that out too. Let me shift this. Let's mark this out. HDF. Yep. So previous low broken, and then now we're saying price, if we anticipate price to go back to this supply area on the daily, and then we are seeing on the daily that price is showing signs of strength, then we can be bullish for a period. And more evidence of that is the fact that we have this supply area here too, that price has seemingly taken out and looking like it wants to be pulled to the 2911s here. So I would be, based on the information on the daily and then what I am seeing on the 4H, be leaning bullish, even if it's on the short term. How would that look like? So let's, by now you should have noticed that the way we do the way I do the marking out is major area, major low, if it's a bearish trend, right? Major low here, and then the area that created the major low, in this instance I would pick this one. I know people will be asking, why is it not this one, why is it not this one? It's technical detail that we will get into in another video, but yeah, this major area taken out price came back, retested, and we're seeing again signs of bullishness, bullish continuation on the 15 minutes too. So if we were to look for trade ideas, I would say I would want this high here to be taken out. If it was taken out, then if it ends up being taken out, I'll now look for supply areas within this area here. I'll mark out this one as a deep demand area. I keep using supply and demand interchangeably. I feel like I'm confusing some of you, but this demand area, I'll mark this out first, but then if price does this, break this area here, I'd be expecting it to come back to supply area, this supply area here, because by then you would have done displacement and done the breaking of a major high, so it would be considered a valid demand area. So I'll wait for it here with anticipation that it would continue up. Well, if it doesn't respect it, this would be the next area that I would be looking to long the markets on NQ. And also, if it doesn't do this, we could expect price to come back here, so we can expect our buys to be here. So two areas of buying, this area here and then this area here, but this area is contingent on it actually showing a displacement and breaking this area properly before coming back. But this area we can keep it. If we see signs of price coming back to this area, we can place our orders here. So yeah, that is it for NQ. Is there anything I'm missing? Not really. So yeah, oil, I am not sure any of you trade oil, and I also don't. I look at oil for the reasons, fundamental reasons. I like looking at oil to give me a picture of what the market is currently doing, where sentiments are, but not necessarily trade oil. One day, maybe, who knows. But currently I do not trade oil, but I do analyze oil for information's sake. I'm obsessed with the chart, so any opportunity to know what things are doing, I will jump into it. So on oil, we are seeing this. I had hopes that oil would come back to around these areas here, around the 6400 areas, but then when Trump decided to resume his operations against Iran again, after oil had pulled back, when they had done their whole memorandum of understanding and stuff, as soon as they started attacking and started fighting again, oil started pushing up. So it's been on this upward trajectory for a while now. What we're seeing now is a bit of indecision within oil, and rightly so too, because we're having more news about what they want to do and what they don't want to do. So with oil, if we see a cool down of tensions, oil will probably do this and then start pulling back. When the strait is relieved and when there isn't as much tension about war, it would start pulling back and head lower. But on the flip side, which funny enough might be the most likely scenario, you might see oil be stuck here for a little bit while they do their whole we are talking, and then as soon as they resume fighting again, oil will be targeting here. So you might end up seeing, if the fighting continues, you might end up seeing oil hitting the previous 112 highs that I had hit at the height of the war. But yeah, if you're still here looking at my analysis about oil, I feel like you're equally a nerd too, but you have no reason to still be here. But yeah, that's my analysis on oil. So let's go back. War BTC. Again, I don't trade BTC too. I'm just interested in watching people melt down about it. It was supposed to be the savior of currencies. It was supposed to be the one that ended up replacing fiat. But now BTC is the most useless pair, or the most useless asset you could trade in this current market. You can see BTC has been selling off for a while now, but then now it's still selling off. It is definitely still selling off. So you've had on the daily BTC come back to this supply area here, very clean, come back to the supply area, and then now it is selling off from that supply area strongly. There are this many internal supplies here, but then the fact that price is with momentum breaking into them, it's already a sign that it would most likely be broken. So if you're looking for setups on GBP looks to be currently rather bearish, although you could wait for, let's see, you could wait for prices to clear this mini supply area first if you want to, although it's daily, so might not necessarily be that significant for someone who is intraday trading. On the 4H, how does it look like? On the 4H, let's concentrate on the price action here. So we have this high here, high, have this high, we have this lows here, we have this lows here, right? And then let's mark out the major low right here. So if we're looking for bearish continuations, at least to this area here, it would be, let's see, it would be it would look something like this. It looks like something like this. Let's mark this out. The forming supply area here, we would wait for price to now come back into these areas before sending it down to this 62084 area. So on the 15-minute, it would look like we would look for supply. So the problem right now is it feels like the idea itself is already playing out. The idea that we want price to come back here, pull back, and then come back before continuing down is already playing out. So but let's see. Let's see. Okay, let's do this. Major. Okay. Yeah, it looks like price has already fulfilled the obligation you would have wanted it to fulfill. So if we had wanted to, this would have been the ideal place to take the trade, because if this hadn't had happened, it would have been a case of price had come back into the area we expected it to come back to, respected it, created this supply area, very important, this supply area here, and then displacement, and then came back to supply area, and then now we're seeing the sell-off. So the opportunity itself, the only or the next probable opportunity for taking something like this would be if we were to target this. Everything happened. What's going on? Nah, I didn't do that, did I? No replay trading from, no replay trading. Okay. Would be to mark out this area here. And then wait for price to come back here and then sell it down again. But I am very much of the opinion that BTC is bearish. So yeah, I think that is no? That should be it. Except if there is any other. No, Abu. There isn't. So yeah, this on GBP USD, expectation that price would come back here before continuing back up to 354, and then Euro USD, looking for buys too on Euro USD. Although that's strong, looking for buys potentially around here, or when price breaks out and then comes back here. And on XAUUSD, again, I don't have much to say about gold right now. I'm sure we'll get to a point where gold would be the pair that we are regularly looking out for, but as for now, again, as gold be. So yeah, that is it. We are starting a new month, so price might be choppy at the beginning, first 2 days as the market adjusts, but then eventually we should see clean setups going into August. So good luck to anybody who is either growing an account or taking a challenge, and hopefully have a profitable month. Oh, and happy new month, shouldn't forget that part. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you watched this far and you like the analysis, I plan on doing them every Sunday. Give it a thumbs up, and see you next Sunday.